This Week in Agribusiness, serving America's most essential industry, is brought to you by Case IH. Coming up on this weekend's broadcast, a big global indoor farm show. They haven't held it for 4 years. We'll have a couple of reports. And it's the time of the season that the turkey farms of America are in the spotlight, though their work goes on the year round. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this weekend's broadcast. Yeah, we've gone to the bench this weekend for a little bit of help here at the anchor desk of This Week in Agribusiness. Mr. Pearson will be with us with a report here momentarily, and of course, he'll be back here anchoring our broadcast next weekend. He attended the National Association of Farm Broadcasting meeting this week, so we stood in for him here at the desk. Well, maybe you've noticed if you've already been shopping for the Thanksgiving feast, the price of that bird is down this year in most instances, and that's simply because the production is up. For the first time in 5 years, I believe, we have seen the production of turkeys rising, and as a result, many of the retailers have been featuring the bird, as is often the case during the Thanksgiving holiday season. You go into your favorite grocery store to encourage you to buy the things you need for the entire feast, the price of which, by the way, is elevated this year overall with everything factored in for Thanksgiving. They try to get you to go in there, buy those things, and you'll get a turkey free or a turkey heavily discounted. Where does your turkey come from? This might be a discussion over the Thanksgiving meal as you look at somewhere in the neighborhood of 219 million turkeys produced in the United States. Leading the list in numbers of birds produced is the state of Minnesota. They produce about 39 million of the 219 million. Number two is North Carolina. In fact, they're down about 10 million fewer birds raised than Minnesota. Rounding out the top five then for those states in terms of the numbers of birds, you have Arkansas, Indiana, and then Missouri. So it's interesting to note that much of the production comes from right down through the heart of the United States, to be sure. But now look at the list of pounds produced top turkey states. The number 1 and 2 positions shift. While North Carolina produces maybe 10 million fewer birds than Minnesota, they produce about 100,000 more pounds altogether. And in Indiana, you see the number 3 turkey producer, followed by number 4, Missouri, number 5, the state of Arkansas.
Well, this week's In the Cab with Pioneer is a little different. Due to some heavy weather in northern Illinois, we're going near the cab with this week's grower, Luke Lilja, outside Rydot, Illinois. Luke, thanks so much for talking with us this week.
Thanks for having me.
If you would, tell us first about your operation. What all do you grow?
We raise corn, soybeans, and wheat, dabbling a little bit in some alfalfa too.
All right. Now, I understand on the corn front, your operation in 2022 was first place in the National Corn Growers Corn Yield Contest. Can you tell us a little bit more about what division you were in and what it was you grew on the farm?
We were in the no-till, non-irrigated division, and the hybrid that we planted was Pioneer 1278 Chrome.
And what was the yield? What did you end up getting certified?
We were right at 312 bushel acre.
312 bushel per acre. That is a pretty staggering number to see on fields across the Midwest. Luke, what are some of the key management practices you use on your farm to get those kind of numbers?
Really managing our fertility, managing disease, hybrid selection. That's 3 of the key things we use to really push our yields along.
Luke, from a plant health perspective, in your neck of the woods, what in a given year are some of the biggest challenges you confront?
Tar spot's very difficult to control. All you do is pretty much manage it.
It is a tough one, and it explains why so many producers are looking at products like that Pioneer Chrome. Did you notice some changes in this year's performance of that Chrome?
Yes. There were some other companies that we've noticed have had a lot of, more severity of tar spot, where our Chrome products, we didn't really see a lot of it this year. So I think that kind of speaks a lot, about the hybrids that we plant. It's just outstanding.
Luke, what other advantages did you notice with that technology package in the Pioneer Chrome corn this year?
I think from a disease standpoint, it really shines. if we can handle disease, it's just going to help so much on the yield side of things.
From an observational perspective, are you noticing it staying green later in the season?
Absolutely. That's one huge thing that we have noticed with the chrome, just the stay green effect of it. I think that helps a lot with the test weight as well, keeping that alive longer.
Luke, overall, how does harvest look on the operation this year?
Beans are going to be down a little bit from last year. Corn, I've pretty much said this, the whole year. The corn has looked outstanding considering the stresses that it has went through.
Well, we wish you the best of luck in getting the rest of that crop out. Luke Lilja from Rydot, Illinois, thanks for letting us join you in the cab with Pioneer.
Thanks for having me.
This portion of This Week in Agribusiness brought to you by Firestone Ag. There's never been a better time to upgrade your combine, tractor, and grain cart tires. Save up to $300 per tire when you buy 2 or more eligible Firestone Ag radial tires this fall. Visit firestoneag.com for details. Yeah, it's good to see an old friend back with us here on This Week in Agribusiness, someone who's been our guest many times. Ray Brownfield, Land Pro LLC. Past president of the Association of Farmland Managers and Rural Appraisers. Let's get updated on what's happening with farmland prices. In the heart of the country, they've topped out almost, haven't they?
We always think so until we see another auction hit. And then it depends on the quality, the drainage, and location. There's been some recent sales. We had one at 19.7 last week. We saw some at 20, 21, but it's very locational specific.
$21,000 per acre.
Correct, here right in Illinois. But it's specific to the area. If it's good drainage, highly tillable, good soil productivity, and strong farmers in the area, and if they want to add it to what they already have, there's pretty competitive. But then on the other land, it has less drainage issues. It's got some drainage issues, some things like that. I think that has definitely topped out and really starting to show a little bit of weakness here and there.
Some of these elevated prices, extremely elevated in places like Iowa or Missouri, those are special situations, are they not? Where maybe personalities come into play sometimes, don't they, Ray?
I think they could. We see that from time to time as to who's there, who wants the ground, and is it right next to them? If it's contiguous, certainly it's a long-term, I think, investment for a lot of those people. They're averaging what they already have over the years. So you look at that price, that's terrible. Well, maybe yes, maybe no. For long-term, probably really not.
It may not come on the market again for a long time.
Exactly correct.
This is one way to look at it.
Exactly correct.
Lowest corn prices in 3 years, that can't help.
That doesn't help, but we've been through what I call the perfect storm. It started in 21, went through all of 22, lower interest rates, high commodity prices back then. It really, and really high yields, and a lot of demand came in at that point in time to create a really almost a perfect market, if you will. Today, we're kind of reversing that to some degree, but still unusually strong considering the situation.
You mentioned interest rates. Credit conditions, as cited in that Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago report a few days ago, were weakening, just as you would expect, right?
Yes, yep, I sure did. Yeah, and that's what you would expect to see in that kind of situation. Yep.
What percentage of recent transactions you have seen have been cash transactions for farmland? Have those fallen off dramatically?
Well, we never know for sure because all of our deals are not contingent upon financing as a rule. But I would still say that there's a lot of cash they're pursuing land. So maybe 15 to 20% leverage, even with interest rates as high as they are. I think there's some concern about that perhaps, but still quite a bit of cash that's there if it's the right farm for the right people.
I was a little bit surprised that I think there were something like 70% of the bankers surveyed, and that Chicago Fed survey indicated they expected at least stable prices. They're not looking for the bottom to drop out then, are they?
I don't think so. No, I really don't. There's always demand. Land is forever. It's not created anymore, as we always said. So, it's a long-term investment, and it's something that I think it's really against inflation. It's a good hedge, as we'd put it. So,
and inflation is with us.
Inflation is with us.
I mean, as much as we want to focus on, it's not as rampant as a year ago
right.
or the year before. It just continues.
That's right.
That's
That's
something
right.
that you have to consider.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little more with you about some of the other factors in the farmland market. Not just farmers buy it. I want to pursue that question. Ray Brownfield, Land Pro LLC, our guest this weekend. He'll be right back with me. There has never been a better time to upgrade your combine, tractor, and grain cart tires. Save up to $300 a tire when you buy 2 or more eligible Firestone Ag radial tires this fall. Visit firestoneag.com for details. Ray Brownfield, longtime friend of ours from Land Pro LLC, is back at the desk with me here. Ray, my goodness, all of this wailing and gnashing of teeth over a farm bill, well, we'll extend it. It's not the end of the world, is it? You watched Washington for a long time.
Yeah, it goes on and on and on. And are we waiting for the next election? I mean, sometimes that does a carryover situation, politically speaking. So who really knows?
That uncertainty that may go with that, that's no big consideration in farmland prices, is it?
I don't think so. I think the uncertainty is more globally what's going on today.
And there's a lot of that.
The export-import market, what China relations, even Israel situation has people concerned. Overall, Ukraine issue has some bearing on what we're doing globally speaking. So I think that's probably more concern to us than maybe the farm bill in some ways.
With all these geopolitical concerns around the world, there are those concerns about who's buying United States farmland. I saw an American Farm Bureau analysis of the USDA figures the other day. It showed that still, in terms of the total farmland base of the United States, foreign ownership is a minuscule amount, and most of that is forest land, right?
That's very correct. And Canadians are, I guess we call them foreign. I don't see them foreign, but they are in how we say that. But they're big buyers of timber and other areas. So we really haven't had, in our experience, I've worked with Argentinians a little bit. They like bigger tracts and probably a little less quality because it's kind of what they want. But I have people ask me when we're in this business, are you selling to the Chinese? Not to our knowledge, we're not. We really haven't had any direct impact in our business.
It was interesting to see a county-by-county breakout in that Farm Bureau report. And there was one county right in the heart of Illinois, McLean County, biggest grain-growing county in the state of Illinois, really jumped out at you in terms of foreign ownership, as did, I think, the northwesternmost county of Missouri. And there were some others that, you looked at and you thought, okay, what's going on there?
Well, the Brazilians came in a number of years ago and actually have a huge soybean processing plant at Gilman, Illinois, in Iroquois County, as we both know. And so it's really the Brazilians, Argentine, I would say more Latin American maybe in central Illinois that have been there to some degree, but not in huge amounts.
Urban development, well, the housing is dead in the water, it seems, in most instances. But my goodness, the sprawl goes on, doesn't it?
It does. It does. We see that around the Naperville, Oswego area. There's still land now being purchased for long-term speculation. Pretty good prices being paid again.
That's suburban west of Chicago and south of Chicago?
Yeah, west of Chicago, 40, 50 miles west. And it's keeping going to the west as time goes on because I think some people want to be in the country. It'll be in the country for a while until there's more suburban sprawl, and then it won't be the country.
I haven't stayed up with the tax law. Is the 1031 exchange alive and well? Is it still going on?
It truly is, yeah, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing for the economy. It's a great way to pass on land and the money that goes into it. Sometimes we do get some issues in Washington, D.C. Depending on who it is. It can be the party. Well, we need those taxes. Folks, it's a good thing, believe me.
You mentioned Washington and the party. Farmers really need to stay engaged, I guess, on both sides of the aisle, don't they?
They do.
Because public policy is going to be so crucial to them in the years ahead. You've watched this.
Oh, I've seen it all the time, and it'll continue to be such.
Great to see you as always, sir. Take care of yourself, and we'll tap your knowledge again sometime, knowing that you know so well what's going on in the land business out there.
Thank you, Max. Appreciate it.
Ray Brownfield, Land Pro LLC is his firm. He's located at Oswego, Illinois. That's a suburb west of Chicago. Colby Ag Tech is brought to you by Copperhead Ag Products. Visit copperheadag.com for more information. Of course, we get to go to the Farm Progress Show every year, Husker Harvest Days every year. We'll see many of you at the Louisville Farm Show, no doubt, again this winter. This big show in Germany, though, hasn't been held for 4 years. And there was a lot to see there. Chad Colby has a report.
There were lots of unveilings at Agritechnica this week. The biggest, the gold winner of the show, was New Holland's Class 11 combine called the CR11. 775 horsepower twin rotors, and get this, a 567 bushel grain tank that can unload in under 100 seconds. This combine's got a lot of advanced features for cleaning, and they claim a zero grain loss machine. Pretty interesting. The more you look around the show, you can see that there's a lot of talk about electrification. Kuhn and other companies, though, they're powering their machines with diesel engines, but they have electric drivetrain, which is really interesting. My favorite part of this past week was keeping up with social media. And with the time change, I could do that at night, and that way you could keep up on things like this. As you see, Massey Ferguson rolled out a new flagship tractor for them. And as farmers from the U.S. went to the show, they were quick to share a lot of interesting comments and video posts like you see. Listen, it's interesting the more you go to that show. This is the forward thinking, and whether it's spray nozzles like you see here. Remember, a lot of the products, though, they were already launched in the U.S., like Klaus's new tractor that was launched at the Farm Progress Show. And in the Case IH booth, for the first time in Europe at Agritechnica, they're showing what they showed over here, their new electric utility tractor. But in the Case IH booth, there was a lot to talk about there as well. There's 60 series combine. They've got a new radar sensing for their feeder, which is pretty neat. If you go to C&H Industrial, you can see all the announcements they made on new products. And some of these announcements, the dealers here in North America don't even know all the details, the biggest being that 60 series combine. But my best advice for you is, now that Agritechnica is almost over, there's so much more coming from that show from our friends in media. Go out to farmprogress.com and learn about all this new equipment. And trust me, it doesn't matter what color equipment that's on your farm, there's a lot to talk about from Agritechnica. For This Week in Agribusiness, I'm Chad Colby.
It is a dizzying array of products, so much new stuff, so much great technology, as Chad pointed out there. Coming up a little bit later, we'll have another report from our old friend Willie Vogt, who says it's a kind of old home week for some there. Closed captioning for This Week in Agribusiness is brought to you by Pentair Hypro, a global leader in innovative spray technology for farmers for over 75 years.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to This Week in Agribusiness. For this segment, we're going to take our focus to the world. Rice, one of the world's most widely consumed staple crops, is confronting a bit of a supply issue here in 2023. It's a function of both weather and politics. Joining us now to talk about it in more detail is the newly minted President and CEO of USA Rice, Peter Bachman. Peter, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on.
First and foremost, congratulations. This is a very new role, as I understand it. You're new in the President and CEO job, correct?
Yes, I'm new to the President and CEO role just this week, but I'm a veteran USA Rice staffer. I've been on the staff in one way or another for the last 8 years, for 6 of the last 8 years, and have done 2 different stints there. And so I'm looking forward to taking on this new leadership role within the organization.
Yes, it sounds like you are well versed in the rice industry, and that's why we need your expertise this week. Peter, globally, rice has been driving a lot of headlines. It seems as though the supply is a little questionable this year. Can you fill us in? What has changed globally to drive the spotlight to rice?
Sure. The rice market is primarily owned by India. They're the largest exporter in the world. They export more than the top 4 next largest exporters put together in any given year. And so what India is doing this year is that they imposed an export ban because of fears of a rice shortage within their own country. They wanted to keep food costs low. And that has really thrown our markets into a spiral. You know, over the last couple of months, we've seen markets really shoot up in the world rice space, but they're starting to come down a little bit and normalize to India's ban. on non-basmati white rice and other curbs that they have in place for parboiled rice and also for basmati rice, a little bit less stringent than an all-out ban.
So with a ban coming from India, even a partial ban on some of those products, Peter, this just throws the global supply chain asunder. What does this mean for American producers? Are we able to capitalize on these higher prices here in this country?
Yeah, while what India is doing is bad from a precedent standpoint, and it's bad for food security for a lot of countries that have relied on India's exports over the last decade, namely in Africa and Southeast Asia. It is an opportunity for us and for our growers and our exporters to be able to capitalize on the competitiveness of U.S. rice right now. With this news, a lot of the world rice prices have come up significantly, which makes the U.S. price a lot more appealing. We've got logistical advantages to a lot of Western Hemisphere markets, and we're also helping to backfill in some of the markets that India would have traditionally filled, as well as the other top exporters. Vietnam and Thailand, Pakistan are all helping to backfill, but that's created a vacuum in the market with India off the books right now. They're looking to come back online sometime next year after their presidential elections, once it's politically safe for them to move forward. But in the meantime, U.S. rice farmers are certainly benefiting.
All right, well, let's talk about those U.S. rice farmers. Peter, we've come to the end of this growing season. I'm sure everything is still being tabulated, but what's the census this year on harvest, on yields? Are rice farmers in general pleased with how this year went?
Yeah, we grow rice primarily in 6 states in the Mid-South, but also in California. California had half their crop grown last year because of the drought situation, but this year they were able to resume full coverage of their planted acres with sufficient water supplies. And then in the South, we also saw a lot of acres come back into rice that were planted to soybeans or corn last year. So we had a pretty big crop for us. It was 2.85 million acres, and we had one of the highest yields on record. Unfortunately, because of the really hot weather this summer, and drought situation in parts of the Southeast and Mid-South, we did see reduction in our milling quality, but overall the farmers saw great field yields, and it's been a good crop for us. And it's a great year given India's situation for us to have a large crop and be competitive and be able to supply the world.
Absolutely. That is always fun when those situations come together. Peter, prior to becoming president and CEO, you were vice president of public policy. This is a farm bill year. What do you think rice farmers would like to see changed in D.C. this year?
Well, right now, our main priority is getting a farm bill that includes significant increases for the farm safety net. Namely for us, it's the price loss coverage program, PLC. We utilize crop insurance, but we don't lean on it the same way that a lot of other crops do. And so we really rely on price loss coverage to be that safety net for when prices go awry. And, over the last couple of years, we've seen prices come up a little bit in rice, but we've also seen the input costs double and triple in some cases. And so with those input costs going up, we haven't seen any sort of payments of significance or subsidy that we really need to help make sure that we cover our costs, and these farmers are able to go back and ask for credit again the next year.
Our thanks to Peter Bachman, new president and CEO of USA Rice, for that update.
This Week in Agribusiness, serving America's most essential industry, is brought to you by Case IH. Welcome back to this weekend's edition of This Week in Agribusiness. It's a privilege to come into your home once more. We certainly appreciate it. Well, Willie Vogt has been here on our program quite often over the years, and these past few days, he's been in Germany at that massive farm show called Agritechnica, and you get to see a lot of friends there, as Willie pointed out.
It's been 4 years since the ag industry has traveled to Hanover, Germany for Agritechnica, the massive farm show bringing farmers together from around the globe. The pandemic-paused show has returned in full force for 2023, and the event has been welcomed with open arms as preview days were very busy, and when the show opened to the general public, the halls were packed. Major companies showed off their wares, including the launch of the new Massey Ferguson 9S Series tractor and the Fendt 600 from AGCO. And New Holland debuted the CR11 Combine, the first of a new series for that company. That's just a sample of more than 200 new products on display from exhibitors. But what does Agritechnica mean for the industry? Charlie O'Brien with Agri-Evolution, a global organization of equipment manufacturer groups, shares some insight.
I think everybody is extremely excited about Agritechnica again. And you can see that by the way people are interacting with one another. Agritechnica is where people are at. And so we get a chance to see old friends, but you also get a chance to see the latest and the greatest of what's happening with technical advances that have taken place. And we haven't seen that all in one place for quite a while now. And so that's what's really exciting about being here and being able to have it under one roof and at the largest trade show in the world for agricultural mechanization is a great place to be.
Bringing tech together in one place on this scale offers some interesting opportunities. A stroll through the many show buildings gave visitors a look at a lot of new tools, including several prototype autonomous machines, along with farm management systems and more. In the 4 years since the show has been held, agriculture technology has advanced the use of sensors for spraying, enhanced technology for improving productivity, and created new uses for a range of data. And it's all here at Agritechnica 2023. Reporting for This Week in Agribusiness, I'm Willie Vogt.
It was great to have Willie on the broadcast once more. He formally retired from his responsibilities at Farm Progress earlier this year, but I think he'll be continuing some of his writing, and he'll be out on the speaking circuit. You'll be able to hear Willie in person somewhere along the way or bring him to one of your meetings, no doubt. Greg Solier now brings us his farm weather forecast for the week ahead, presented by Pivot Bio Proven 40. Predictable, productive, weatherproof. Turn to a better nitrogen. Turn to Pivot Bio Proven 40. Learn more at pivotbio.com. I suspect nobody was more surprised than this guy to see who was sitting in this chair this weekend. I've come back to haunt you, Mr. Solier. We're coming up toward Thanksgiving, and I want to get your Thanksgiving forecast. That's always, it seems like such a crucial time, such an important travel time, and we've had so many strong weather developments over the years.
And it's going to be really the case this year where we move back into kind of an active, moisture-laden weather pattern on what's been a relatively decent harvest season for parts of the heartland, delayed over some eastern Corn Belt locales, but here in the Pacific Northwest, it's been ongoing dryness and drought, in particular parts of Washington State and Oregon up through the northern half of Big Sky Country. Boy, last week's drought monitor, the week before, virtually nothing in the drought sense across California. But here it is early on in the week with a push of the colder northern branch of the jet moving on through here. It's a change in weather across the Dakotas and offshore, the next in a series of these somewhat El Nino driven weather systems, and it will do just that heading towards the middle and late portions of the week. So make sure you keep an eye on travel conditions with wet weather, SeaTac southward into northern California, the northern branch bringing down colder air. And yeah, we've had it back during the course of late October, early November, some snow, but some snow back in the forecast for the Dakotas. So it's more or less ramping up into a typical late autumn, early winter looking feel across the upper Midwest, northern plains. But again, drought relief, but livestock managers, bin and barn operators plan accordingly. Pretty quiet weather pattern across California. Again, an absence of any significant drought out there, still across these areas of the southern Rockies and of course into the plains where there is some good news shaping up. Maybe not necessarily from a travel standpoint, but it is a quiet weather picture with a couple of showers into sections of Kansas, Oklahoma. Certainly the newly emerged winter wheat fields, there's been some burn back because of cold, and at the same time uneven developments there. But at the same time, as we move on through this strengthening El Nino setup, looky here, look at the moisture back into play as it was last week across California and late in the week towards the Thanksgiving holiday and beyond into the desert Southwest and moving into the plains with showers and thunderstorms in the areas of West Texas cotton and a little more snow and rain, Max. It's moisture, at least. Look at it from that standpoint across some of the drought areas of Kansas and the Great Plains.
For those right down through the heart of the country, if they want to get everything wrapped up before Thanksgiving, How will the week ahead appear for them?
Well, hopefully you've been be able to be ahead of the game with outdoor work and harvest, and that's been really pretty much the story over the western Corn Belt locales, but because of dryness and drought, we were able to get out there sooner than later. Meanwhile, a different story into parts of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Ohio. We're still looking at about 30 to 40% of the corn still out there, so get it done. Hopefully you got it done over the past week. Note the colder air, more typical of mid-November on the move, and a pretty quiet early to middle parts of the week with holiday travel in mind. Look at this setup here as we get on into the late portion of the week, probably centered on Friday and Saturday, maybe the trip back home from friend and family. Look at the rain and some snow mixed through the upper Midwest. Rain for the western Corn Belt areas, the worst drought areas of Iowa and Nebraska, and there will be a transition, by the way, Red River Valley of the North back into the central high plains and westward from rain over to accumulating snow. So livestock managers there as well, keep an eye on things. But again, additional drought relief, another way to look at it. And that will be the story here with the next in a string of these southern branch El Nino weather systems across Texas, with organized wet weather to start off the week, including the worst pasture lands rated I've seen in a long time through Louisiana, dried up marshes down there in eastern Texas. Later on into the week, that weather system winds up with a buckling jet stream out of Baja Max, showers and thunderstorms on the increase across Oklahoma, Texas, and points out of the east, and a little snow too into the southern high plains.
The string of dry days and pleasant temperatures welcomed by many, but still some fire threats, we note. They had some acreage burning in the Carolina mountains in recent days.
Exactly, and it's pretty amazing considering the degree of wet weather folks there had during the spring and early summer. Here is a little clipper system on the move early in the week of no consequence. A couple of sprinkles and snowflakes, a windy cold pattern for the northeast of New England, and a typical November chill, but opportunities for outdoor work as well. And the last of harvest for now into Michigan, Ohio, and parts of the far eastern Corn Belt. You'll want to get it done as the jet stream roars in from the southwest towards the holiday and beyond. Increasing wet weather for the eastern Corn Belt, snow developing back west of the Missouri. Otherwise, the northeast of New England in relatively good shape, but be ready for an action-packed conclusion to the month of November across the Corn Belt. Over the deep south and southeastern states, rain, hip hip hooray for Texas and the Delta region and through Florida, with a drier, cooler setup to start across the Carolinas. That changes, here comes that moisture max later on to the week over the holiday period. Showers and thunderstorms on the increase, and a push of colder air back into the southern plains.
Greg Solier is back with his extended farm weather forecast for the country, presented by Pivot BioProven 40. Predictable, productive, weatherproof. Turn to a better nitrogen. Turn to Pivot BioProven 40. Learn more at pivotbio.com. A change in the weather coming, as we heard Greg say, and some of that will be wetter weather. Not all rain?
Some snow potential, the likelihood, matter of fact, as you get out west of the Missouri, especially over the back end of the holiday weekend. So keep an eye on things with traveling around and tending the livestock. Here it is, but ahead of that, significant moisture for a good part of the Corn Belt. Try to get it done while you can in some of the delayed areas of Michigan and Ohio. Significant moisture should hopefully ease the fire threat over the southeastern states late in the week, Delta and Texas as well. And a nice dip of the jet stream across the West Max means significant moisture, the first of several El Nino winter weather patterns are expected to get going there in the weeks to come.
For many of us, the warmer temperatures have been so pleasant. Will that continue as we get past Thanksgiving here now?
I think by and large, but we're kind of here on a short string here, I think, especially back over the western half of the country. So yes, there is a indication of still some mild weather from Texas to the Ohio Valley into the northeast of New England, but note that jet stream pattern, the trough and west of the trough here, temperatures a bit below average for that particular part of the country, and you get that slingshot setup here of a wide range of temps, and you get an active weather pattern. Desert Southwest, the heart of the worst drought areas of the plains into the upper Midwest and southeastern Canada. So again, get it done while you may, the best you can, wrap it for the season.
For the week of December 4, beginning December 4, cold weather on the way?
Oh, you know it's going to come, but it's an El Nino year here, so these tend to be short-lived on this particular cycle. A little prod as that trough kind of moves over the heartland, warmth over the deep south and southeastern parts of the country, a little ridging over the western part of the country, but you see that U-shaped configuration. You know the real drill here, and the rule is wet weather and plenty of it for the Ohio Valley, eastern Corn Belt, probably organized snows for the upper Midwest, more rain for the southeastern part of the country, some short short-term drying max for the western states.
I saw that much below north of the border with Canada. My goodness, cold weather. What about the week of December 11th now?
Oh, good point, because here comes that cold and below average. There it is, all the way down into the desert southwest and up across the Canadian prairie. It is a very sharp buckle, the jet stream pattern here, the warmth for the Ohio Valley into the eastern states. And here we go with the moisture, a very busy one for the west, the plains, and across the Midwest too.
Next on This Week in Agribusiness, it's Max's Tractor Shed, spotlighting another great American tractor.
Sometimes when I show these old tractors at a Max's Tractor Shed, maybe we lose sight of how well those tractors performed day after day, year after year on the farms. We'll talk about it in Max's Tractor Shed, brought to you by Mystic Lubricants. Mystic Lubricants are made to make it last. Well, 35 years old, that's all. Some of you purists might quarrel. Well, wait a minute, Max. Is that old enough to be considered an antique tractor and to be featured in Max's Tractor Shed? I suppose I would argue it is, because of the heavy duty that this tractor has had on Fred Farms in Indiana. This 7110 has done mixer work hooked up to a Kuhn TMR mixer. Never failed to start out there 6 a.m. and 4 p.m. every day. Dave Fred said the only time in the 14 years he had it that it missed a feeding was for scheduled repairs. You know, for the radiator, a couple of water pumps to fix a hydraulic line leak under the cab. Dave said that tractor never was into the dealer for work and never had a dealer service call. He took care of what needed to be taken care of over the 14 years, the 8,300 hours that he put on it. Now, the cows that relied on that early Case IH Magnum are gone from Fred Farms, and the 7110, he said, is unemployed. But with a 100-plus horsepower capability, I'm sure that old machine that Dave Fred has there, maybe antique, still has a lot of utility in northern Indiana at the community of Rochester. Let's see what's selling at Big Iron Auctions now as we bring in our friend Mark Stock with his weekly report.
Well, hello, Max. We've got Thanksgiving right around the corner, and here at BigIron.com and Sullivan Auctioneers, we are definitely thankful for all of the friends that we have met this past year, all of the bidders, the buyers, and the sellers, and all of the machinery and the land and the livestock and the classic cars that have sold here in 2023. We do have some real estate that will sell here on Tuesday of this week. The Elizabeth Lockhow Administrative Trust will sell some land in Polk County, Nebraska, and the Willard Nagel Trust and Leanna Nagel Trust will sell 2 tracts of land in Seward County, Nebraska. We also have a farm machinery retirement sale. Mike and Christy Horsch, they are retiring by Wellington, Kansas. They've got 88 items on their sale, including a versatile 936 Destination 6 4-wheel drive tractor. A super sharp Case IH 7240 Magnum tractor will sell to the highest bidder on November 22nd. And yes, we've got another big sale for Hudson John Deere on Monday, November the 27th, folks, at 9 o'clock a.m. Central Time. They'll be selling a large selection of tractors, choppers, planters, combines, and a lot of late model John Deere farm equipment. These items will sell from Hudson locations in Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Michigan. Check out the website for more information.
Our FFA tribute on This Week in Agribusiness brought to you by Pioneer, developing new generations of seed innovations for new generations of farmers. Pioneer, what's next happens here. Well, we go to Arkansas this week. I think this young man lives not too far northeast of Little Rock, if I'm not mistaken. Austin Guett, welcome to our broadcast here.
Thank you. It's fun to be here.
I'm interested in your background. You're a district officer, if I'm not mistaken, in the Arkansas FFA?
Yes, sir. So in my hometown of Ward, Arkansas, we have a beef cattle operation of about 300 or 400 on about 950 acres. And I was elected in April. And I've just been traveling the country, got to visit Washington, D.C. Last week I went to Indiana for a national convention, meeting all kinds of new people, making connections. And I'm just looking forward to see where this agriculture industry can take me throughout my entire life. It's pretty neat.
You bet. Where are you standing at the moment?
So right now I'm at the Arkansas State University BB campus. I go to college here. I'm actually out here next to the school barn. We have labs and everything every Wednesday, run cows through these chutes and all before. So it's pretty neat.
Tell me, who has been really important in developing your education, your vocational ideas thus far? Was there a teacher, your father, a relative? Who's been a mentor for you?
So I really have two. Mr. Ruff, my advisor, whenever I was in ninth grade, really helped me out. I was in football in eighth grade, and my mom said, "Hey, it's FFA or it's football," and we can see where that took me, But he helped me calm my nerves right before shows and show me what it really means to take advantage of every opportunity that I'm given. My dad as well. He's taught me everything I know when it comes to beef cattle and the ag industry. And I'm just excited to see where that takes me. He's helped me this far, and he'll help me as long as he's around.
I'm sure you'll pass it on, too. I just have that feeling. Austin Hewitt, so nice to meet you there in the Arkansas FFA organization.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
It occurred to me the other day how close we are moving into the holiday season to the end of the year, and I need to get a new Farmall tractor calendar. Lee Cloncher, the father of the calendar, as well as the author of many great books on Farmall tractors. Welcome to our studio this weekend.
Great to be here with you, Max.
We do want to get to that calendar. We want to look at these pictures in a little while after we get off the air. I want to eyeball that, but I need to talk about your book. I want to talk about that new book on Farmall tractors. Tell us about it.
You know, Max, I was thinking about it, and this book really is such a trip back in time. For me as the author, it was a trip back in time doing the research and going to the early part of the 20th century when the tractor really changed our entire society. And one of the things that really takes you back is the photography. And the book, often my books are about my own photography. This book does have plenty of that, but there's so much just fantastic archival material that is from some of the better photographers of the 20th century and just takes you back to those days.
They are superb, even though those photographs are old. I think in some instances they've been enhanced to really bring out the features of that photograph. But they're great, and you don't have to be a tractor fan to love this book. There's so much great history. Even the doggone Chicago fire is spotlighted in there.
Absolutely, there's so much Chicago history, and so much of the McCormick family was part of the Chicago history. And those images are so beautiful because those photographers use large format cameras that with big pieces of film, so they are absolutely pin sharp and just time travel pieces.
I've sometimes used the reference of coffee table book. That's not a kind comment about this book, and I will never use that, I think, in reference to your wonderful books, because there's so much history, so much photography, but so much research has gone into it. That's the thing that constantly impresses me. And you work so hard for accuracy.
Absolutely. And in this one, we went back to so many different archives. So we went to the Library of Congress, we went to the Burt Benjamin archives, we went to all these different archives to find photos that people hadn't seen. So both to give those readers that just want to experience that time through images a treat, as well as the really serious enthusiast who's seen all the other books is going to go in and see photos they've just never seen before.
You know, with old tractors, you can find 10,000 experts. As I've found over the years, I mean, it's humbling to me how little I know about the history of these companies. But if you sit under a shade tree at any farm show in the summertime, you'll get so many different opinions. Well, you know, this wasn't so. This was done this way. So you've had to sort through all of that and get the grain from the chaff, so to speak.
Absolutely. And one thing I've learned, certainly it's super humbling because there is so much knowledge and so much history. IH spans such a large span of time, had so many different divisions, was such a big company. So I'm always learning things, and I've certainly learned the most important thing is to keep my ears open and listen and find those people that know the most about, say, a Farmall regular. And we made sure those people, as many as we could find, reviewed the book before it went to publication. So we had, I believe it was over 25 different people read the entire manuscript or the section they knew, And they would often tell us more, so we'd learn more things. We learned the Super M's had like 5 different variations called stages. I didn't know about all this. Now we know there's stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and the Super MTA being, I think, stage 4. But all those little details help make the book a richer resource.
Take a few seconds to zero in on one specific photograph that you really like.
I would say there's a photo of a man that Russell Lee took. Russell Lee was one of the farm security administrators, and he is on his farm with his farmall in the 30s, and much of what they were documenting are those hard times of the 30s. And you can look at this man's face, and you can see both pride and satisfaction and difficulty, and it's all right there. It's all right there, and there's a farmall in the background. I think it illustrates that time really well.
OctanePress.com for this book and all of your other products, correct?
Absolutely. Also, anywhere books are sold, and you can stop down at your Case IH dealership. They may have it in stock as well.
You'll give somebody a great holiday season. Lee Clouncher, thank you. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Max.
And thank you for joining us this weekend here on This Week in Agribusiness. Mr. Pearson will be back in here next week as you ramp up toward your Thanksgiving holiday. We hope it's a wonderful Thanksgiving season for you and your family. We all have so much to be thankful for. Take care. We'll see you along the way. Thank you for joining us on This Week in Agribusiness. So long. This Week in Agribusiness is brought to you by Case IH. This Week in Agribusiness is produced by Omax Communications in association with 22 Creative Group. We invite you to visit us online at agbizweek.com.